What's going on, everybody? My name is Alex Wilson. I'm a co-host beside me, Anthony Rivardo from Fireside Giants and Empire Sports Media Production, and you're listening to the Fireside Giants podcast. If you are a diehard Giants fan, you've come to the right place, my friends. The draft is quickly approaching. A lot of players that are elevating with their stock, lowering with their stock. The Giants are in the mix for a bevy of different prospects, and I'm excited to kind of take a look at the offensive line and projecting what the starting unit might look like in the 2022 season. It's going to be vastly different from last year, which is basically everybody's dream. Before we dive into this episode, though, make sure to like and subscribe below. And Anthony, my friend, how you doing?
Doing great. And I love how you mentioned it's going to be vastly different from last year. That's what we're all hoping for, isn't it? Because the Giants' offensive line last year was putrid. The year before that, also really bad. The year before that, really bad. It's been really bad for years. So hopefully this is the year that the New York Giants finally fix their offensive line. You know, they have a really great building block at the left tackle position with Andrew Thomas, a 2020 fourth overall draft pick out of Georgia. He's been phenomenal. I mean, his first season was a bit up and down. He showed some promise. But then he got into his second season, and that was a real breakout. His sophomore season was great. Like Andrew Thomas is a bona fide star in the making at left tackle. But now it's time for the Giants to find the rest of the pieces along the offensive line. They pretty much gutted the rest of it. They pretty much have 4 open positions out of 5 in total on the offensive line. They're finding a new left guard, new center, new right guard, and a new right tackle. It seems like they might have found some starters in a few of those places, but one of them, right tackle in particular, is still just a glaring need after free agency. So the 2022 NFL draft is going to be really crucial for the Giants. I'm excited to dive into how the New York Giants offensive line might change and how it might look to start the 2022 regular season.
Absolutely, my friend. But I want to go kind of position by position. I don't want us to list, all 5 offensive linemen. I want to, we'll take a look at left tackle, left guard. I mean, left tackle we can kind of skip over. That's obviously going to be Andrew Thomas. Like you said, had a monstrous season last year. Coming off a year where he gave up 10 sacks and 39 hurries, 57 total pressures during his rookie campaign. And then 2021 rolls around, he only gave up 2 sacks and 13 hurries and 18 total pressures and close to a similar number of snaps. He had about 178 fewer pass blocking snaps, or just rather blocking snaps in general. Pass blocking, he had about 100 fewer, but still the efficiency speaks for itself. It was far better, and the Giants can feel pretty confident about their left tackle moving forward in Andrew Thomas. But left guard is a far more interesting decision, kind of a problem at this point in time. The Giants did go out and sign Max Garcia, formerly of the Arizona Cardinals. He was a Pro Bowl alternate last year. They signed him to a minimum deal. I think it's like 1 year, 1.2 million or something like that. Really cheap. Right now, I think it's going to be him or it's going to be a rookie. Could be a guy like Zion Johnson out of Boston College. That's a guy that really sparks my interest. And I think the Giants would be excited to get him. Kenyon Green, another guy who somehow is dropping to the second round in a lot of mock drafts these days. So, the Giants have a couple of solutions that they can target in the draft for the left guard position. I think pairing Andrew Thomas with a good left guard would make him a lot better, even better than he is now, which would be tremendous. We're talking about he had a phenomenal season with Matt Skura and the ever rotating Russian roulette at left guard last year. So the fact that he played so well is a really good indicator that he's going to take a big step forward this year, especially if they put a decent talent next to him. He could be a legitimate Pro Bowl, if not all pro level player with a good player, paired with him. So the draft definitely offers the most value because the Giants have no money this year. So I will say my prediction is that Max Garcia ends up being a kind of valuable depth piece that is able to play multiple spots. I think that a rookie ends up starting at left guard this year, Anthony. I don't want to say it's Zion Johnson, but I would love it to be Zion Johnson. For that reason, I'm going to say Zion Johnson's my projected starting left guard because that would just be a home run. He's very athletic. He's a good run blocker. He's a good pass blocker. A lot of upside there. He would be a great player. He's a lot better than a lot of what the Giants had last year. So I think it would be extremely beneficial. But when you're looking at left guard, Anthony, who do you think is going to be the starter come the start of the season?
Yeah, I think there's a good chance that Max Garcia does pencil in there as the starter, but I agree with you. I think the Giants are going to look to find their starter in the 2022 NFL draft. And one of the main reasons that I believe that is because I saw a little report yesterday where it was Daniel Jeremiah from NFL Network, and he said something along the lines of, everyone in the league knows that the Giants are looking to trade down, right? Like they're not planning on picking at both 5 and 7. That's a report that he's releasing. He's heard some insider information. Daniel Jeremiah is saying that the Giants are not going to stick and pick at both 5 and 7. So in my opinion, when you take a look at what the Giants are probably going to do if they are trading down from one of those spots. They're probably going to trade down to the latter half of the first round and find an interior offensive lineman there, or maybe accrue some more draft picks later on in the draft and find an interior offensive lineman later on. So I think if you take a look at the top left guards available in this draft, of course, as you mentioned, Zion Johnson, I think that's a target if they do trade down in the first round. Say they're picking somewhere between 20 and 32, Zion Johnson might be a perfect selection. He's going to be a day one starting left guard. But then let's say maybe they don't trade down. They stick and pick at 5 and 7, and then they just go into the second round and they try and find their starting left guard. Well, I think, of course, as you mentioned, Kenyon Green is another great player. He played a lot of snaps at left guard. He's a good pass protector. He only allowed 1 sack in 2021 and 2 hurries. He's very versatile and he can do a whole lot. But I think really even digging even deeper, let's say the Giants don't take a guard in either rounds 1 or rounds 2. I think that you can probably find some guard talent later on in this draft because there's a lot of really talented guards in this year's draft class. I'll even throw out another name. I've thrown him out before a few weeks ago on the podcast. Marquise Hayes out of Oklahoma, projected 5th round pick. He's huge. He's a giant meatball of a man. He's not very athletic, so he maybe isn't the best scheme fit for what the Giants are trying to do, but he is a great pass protector. So maybe he can work in terms of the offensive system. He's a great pass protector, real meatball out of Oklahoma. I like him as a 5th round pick. So whether we're going first round, second round, or middle to late rounds to find that offensive lineman, I do think the Giants will be drafting a left guard at some point in this year's draft. And I think there's a good chance that that guy will take over as the starter at some point in the regular season.
Yeah, I totally agree. And honestly, if they found a mid-round guard who is more proficient as a pass protector than a run blocker, I'm okay with that. If he's a developmental guy, but his strength is pass protecting, I'm totally fine because, Brian Dable, Mike Kafka, they love to pass the football. That's going to be where the Giants offense makes their money this upcoming season and really for the future. So I'd love to see them get an offensive lineman, specifically at left guard, who can pass protect at a solid level entering the NFL, even if he has some deficiencies in the running game. Of course, a lot of people will bring up Shane Lemieux and, let him compete. Like, I have no problem letting Shane Lemieux compete, but I'm not handing out starting jobs anymore. This is not the Dave Gettleman era. We're not handing out starting gigs to the Shane Lemieux or the Ben Bredesons or the Matt Skurs of the world. It's over. That period is over. This is not supposed to be a 10-year rebuild for the offensive line with tons of capital washed down the drain. It's time for Joe Shane, this management, to really put it together and have guys compete for these positions. And they have a couple guys who will. At center, it's a little bit different. They don't have many options at center because Nick Gates is still recovering from his injury. He's probably not going to play this upcoming year. He's, had a setback a couple of weeks ago. I mean, at this point, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I think he's ever going to play again. There's a possibility he comes back, but there's also a good chance he never plays in the NFL again. So I'm not relying on him to be the Giants starter moving forward. With that being the case, I think John Feliciano ends up being the starting center. They signed him to be the starting center, and he wants to play that position. He was like, I've been sitting behind guys making $14-15 million a year, and I'm ready to take on that role. He only has 312 snaps at center, which is a tad concerning to me. He has most of his reps at right guard. So worst case scenario, the Giants, if they got Tyler Linderbaum, for example, at center, they could transition Feliciano to right or left guard and, not really skip a beat. I know we have Mark Lewinsky, who's definitely going to be the starting right guard there. But John Feliciano, I definitely project as the opening day starting center. He's a decent run blocker. He has his inconsistencies in pass protection last year. Specifically, he really showed some good prowess in the run blocking category when he did play center. His pass protection was okay. It was average at best. With some continuity and some consistency, I think he could be a decent player. But I'm not looking at him to be a long-term solution at the position, Anthony. But what are your thoughts on center and John Feliciano?
Yeah, I think pretty much everything you said is completely accurate. John Feliciano will be the starting center. The Giants signed him to play center. That was a clear distinction that they made when they released the official announcement of the signing, because John Feliciano is traditionally a guard. So when they went ahead and they announced the signing and it said the Giants have signed John Feliciano to play center this season, I think that was a clear indication that he is not going to be the guard. He is going to be the starting center, barring anything unforeseen. And the only possible opportunity that I think could present itself to the Giants to maybe move John Feliciano back to guard is if they were to draft the top center in this year's draft, Tyler Linderbaum. But in order to draft Tyler Linderbaum, I mean, you're taking a look at his draft projection right now. He didn't participate in athletic testing at the combine because he's dealing with an injury, and he got weighed in and measured, and he came in really small. So now his draft stock is starting to fall pretty far. Some are saying that he could even fall into the early part of the second round, which I still think is kind of flabbergasting. Tyler Linderbaum, to me, one of the best talents in the draft. Like, go at his position, he is just phenomenal for a center. But center's not that valuable, and he did not have the best measurements of the combine, so he's falling. So for the Giants, if they were to draft Tyler Linderbaum, again, it would have to be in a trade down scenario. They're trading down to the back end of the first round, and they're taking their center. But I don't know if that's that likely. I think that's kind of a long shot. So for me, projected starting center for the 2022 season is absolutely John Feliciano.
Yeah, I've been saying for quite a while that Tyler Linderbaum, while like you said, great player, centers do not go top 10. That just does not happen. Centers are not valuable enough to go top 10. A lot of people were clamoring on about him being a top 10 pick a couple weeks ago, and I kind of assumed we would be going after a right tackle or a pass rusher or a corner, which are far more luxurious positions that you have to spend a ton of money to solve. You don't have to spend a ton of money to solve center. Like, getting a good center, maybe you spend 10 million max. Getting a good pass rusher, maybe you're spending 18 plus million. A cornerback, probably 15 plus million. And a right tackle or just a tackle in general, you're spending 18, 20 plus $1 million. Center is easily not, just based on financial, availability and what they have to offer. You're not going to overpay a center, with that being the case, John Feliciano makes the most sense. And if Tyler Linderbaum was there in the second round, that's it. That's a home run. That's a steal. Solving right tackle and center and right guard in one offseason with no money. Like, I'm giving Joe Shane a gold medal right there. It's just up to the coaches to get it done because these guys all have talent. But when you're looking at right guard, Giants went out and got Mark Lewinsky. They didn't spend a ton of money on him. I think what was the contract? 6.8 million over 3 years or something like that. So it's nothing crazy. Last year, he actually only gave up 2 sacks and 5 QB hits. The last 4 games of the season, he was dominant as a pass protector.
I think it was around 6.5 million per year. I think it was 3 years
per year. Okay, per year.
Like
okay, right. So yeah, so 6.5 million per year. That's my bad. Which still isn't that big of a deal because he, like I'm about to say, his pass blocking grades were phenomenal in the last 4 games of the season. He gave up 1 sack and 1 hurry over those last 4 games, which is like over 100 snaps. And then overall, good run blocker. Not the best in the world. He has some inconsistent games. He also has some good games, but his pass protecting is where his strong suit is, and that's where the Giants need the most help. And coming from the Indianapolis Colts offensive line, that's the type of team. That's the team you want to steal guys from. You want to steal offensive linemen from the Colts because they know how to build a good offensive line. And I think the Giants obviously saw that, and they saw Glowinski as a probably cheaper option. I know a lot of people would have rather had James Daniels from Chicago. He's a little bit younger, but I think that Chicago's offensive line was one of the worst in the league last year. And I think that they kind of were like, we would rather get a guy who's coming from a great system. Maybe they like the intangibles he brings. Who knows? They obviously had their rhymes and reasons for it. But I think that obviously Glowinski is the starting right guard. I think he's going to be pretty good for the Giants, especially if they pair a nice rookie next to him at right tackle. So that's kind of where I'm looking in terms of that experience at right guard is essential. Of course, you move on from Will Hernandez, who signed with Arizona, and I think Glowinski is a big upgrade personally in terms of pass protecting. So, Anthony, when you look at Glowinski, do you think that was a good signing? Obviously, he's going to be the starter moving forward.
Yeah, Glowinski should be the starter. I do think it was a good signing. It was relatively cost efficient, I mean, they could have paid just a little bit more to get a guy like James Daniels, who's younger and maybe a little bit better, but the Giants really don't have any cap space. I think right now they have in total $6.5 million to spend. So that's not enough to sign the draft class that they have coming up, and it's definitely not enough to go into the regular season with. So the Giants did the right thing. They paid, cheap contracts for decent players that can start. John Feliciano, Mark Lewinsky, these are guys that can start on your offensive line. Are they going to be Pro Bowlers or All Pros? No, most definitely not. But Mark Lewinsky is a good right guard to be the starter for 1 to 3 years, and I really like the signing. So yeah, he's definitely the projected starter for the 2022 season at right guard, and I could probably predict that he'll be there for maybe a year or 2 longer as well.
Yeah, exactly. So for right tackle, my projected starter at right tackle for the Giants is going to be Alabama stud OT Evan Neal. For some reason, I get this weird feeling that Evan Neal's going to be available at 5. I think that there's going to be a team that trades up into the top 5 for a quarterback, and I think Evan Neal is going to ultimately fall. I think that Aiden Hutchinson obviously goes in the top 5. I think that maybe Sauce Gardner could go in the top 5. A lot of people like him. Derek Stingley just kicked absolute ass at his pro day. So there's a lot of people saying, oh crap, Derek Stingley in the mix right there too. Of course, you have Kyle Hamilton, who kind of didn't do so well at his pro day, but also a great player. And, Ikem Ekwonu and Charles Cross. A lot of those top 3 offensive linemen are interchangeable. A lot of teams have different grades for all of them. A lot of people see Charles Cross and Ikem Ekwonu as the highest upside tackles. Evan Neal has a great floor, but he may not end up being the best tackle of the draft class, which in that case might be good for the Giants because they get a guy who's a legitimate impact player day one, who's coming from an NFL ready program. And he's capable of playing right tackle. He has experience there. The guy is huge. He's like the Aaron Donald of the offensive line. He's like 6'7", 333 pounds, and he ran a faster 40-yard dash than Ikem Ekwonu, who is 30 pounds lighter, right? So that's just insane. The guy's an athletic specimen. I have Evan Neal at right tackle, which, in my opinion, Evan Neal, Zion Johnson, and freaking Andrew Thomas and Mark Lewinsky. Talk about turning over an offensive line in one offseason. That would be a legit masterclass if they were able to pull that off. What do you think?
I think that would be phenomenal if they were able to pull that off. Evan Neal, probably the number one consensus offensive tackle on most people's boards. It's really him or Ikem Ekwonu. I've actually seen Ekwonu overtake Evan Neal on a lot of boards recently. The Draft Network and Pro Football Focus have both put Ikem Ekwonu at the top, but Evan Neal is like literally right there behind them. It's usually like, here's the 5th ranked prospect and the 6th ranked prospect in the draft. You can kind of interchange them. So whichever one the Giants prefer, that's who they're going to take. But, keep an eye on Charles Cross as well. The Giants have, quote, done a lot of work on Charles Cross. They've shown a tremendous amount of interest in Charles Cross. They went to his pro day at Mississippi State. Bobby Johnson, our new offensive line coach, was out there personally coaching him one-on-one in front of everybody. So keep an eye on Charles Cross. There is a chance that maybe the Giants are going to surprise everybody and just take Charles Cross as their favorite offensive tackle in this year's class. And even if that's not the case, there's a chance that maybe he's the 2nd-ranked offensive tackle on the Giants board, where he's the 3rd-ranked on most people's board. So maybe if Evan Neal gets taken in the top 4 and the Giants are picking at 5, I would not be shocked to see them go ahead with Charles Cross as a 5th overall pick. They have shown a lot of interest in him. They've done a lot of research on him. They seem to be really interested in drafting Charles Cross. And Charles Cross is a great scheme fit for the Giants. He's a phenomenal pass protector. He's very agile. He looks like exactly what the Giants are looking for. Now, of course, Evan Neal and Ikem Ekwonu are both exactly what the Giants are looking for as well. They're mean maulers. They're great offensive tackles. They're going to be day one starters at right tackle. No matter what, the Giants starting right tackle in 2022 is going to be a rookie taken in the 1st round. I think we can all bet on that. We can pretty much bet the farm on that. But just keep an eye on Charles Cross. I agree with Alex. I think the likely starter in 2022 for the Giants at right tackle is Evan Neal. I think there's a really strong chance he falls to 5. And if he's there, I think the Giants, Alabama product, right tackle, they're going to take him. But keep an eye on Charles Cross. They've shown a tremendous amount of interest in him.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, if they're able to get any of those 3 offensive tackles, they're going to have a good situation on their hands. Charles Cross is arguably the best pass protecting tackle in the draft class. And if the Giants want to go that route, if they want to protect Daniel Jones first and foremost, they may just decide Charles Cross is our guy. Another name that's popped up is Bernard Raymond out of Central Michigan. They also went to his pro day, and Bobby Johnson worked him out too individually. So that's another name to keep an eye on. 2nd-round pick, maybe late 1st-round pick if they trade back. So, depending on if the haul is just tremendous. So there's a couple of guys, that have been squeaking in here and there. Their names are definitely intriguing and interesting. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, taking a look at the projected offensive line for the Giants in 2022. I'd love to see your comments and your opinions below on the YouTube channel. Let us know what your projected offensive line is. And maybe if you have some differing opinions from us, always love to see your opinions and your descriptions below on YouTube. Make sure to like and subscribe as always. And we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Giants episode.